All right, guys. So, going to be doing my own interview here, and because I unfortunately did not have time to have someone interview me last night, I'm just going to be going off Roman's questions and kind of just like going through them because I did the same thing for detail. I kind of just like went through, tailored him a little bit more for him, but it was mostly the same questions, pretty much like same sentiments, stuff like that. Um, so for the first question was sort of like focused on the Barvo finish and how that would like affect my mindset going into Azeta. Um, so I was actually pretty happy with the Barvo finish because it's not always about like well, I guess there is a saying about like uh, where you finish, but I think a lot of it has to do with like the journey to the finish of a race on like how I feel about a race. So for example, if I get like a third place, but if I'm like in eighth or something somewhere around there with 5 laps to go or so, and I just make a crazy run happen, go from eighth to third, and end up winding up with a third, I'm probably gonna be pretty happy with that night because even though even if I expected to do better going into that race, um, it's like having a comeback like that would always give you a boost of confidence because it's like, oh, I should have had a really crappy race here, and I was able to, clutch up in the end and make a way better finish happen. So for me, it's not about where you start; it's about where you finish. I think it's about what happens in the middle of the race too. Like I think the actual race itself and the context of it definitely matters. And for my Barvo race, that kind of happened. Like I had a pretty, I would say, normal race through the beginning, and then it was like the last caution cycle. I think I just had a really bad restart, got forced. I'm pretty sure like literally to last, and then was able to within the next 10 laps work my way from last all the way back up to second, and then fight on the 5 lap shootout. Lost a few positions in the beginning of that, and then get back up to second again. So like with that context, I was pretty happy with Barvo, and I would say it actually gave me a lot of confidence going into Azeta because even though I wasn't able to get the win, I fought back from like some really terrible positions. Like Holy Gardens and Dillion were all about putting myself in a good position. I was not in a good position many times in Barvo, and I still fought back from it. So I did feel like that gave me a little bit of a boost going into this next track. So the second question, like for Roman, I had it about first podium of the season. I think detail I might have mentioned like his first win of the season at an oval or whatever. I guess for myself, I could say like, did I expect to start off the season like so hot with the 2 wins? And I guess my response for that would be I actually thought it would have went the opposite way. I thought I would have gotten like the seconds and thirds at Dillion and Holy, and then I felt pretty confident about getting the wins at Barvo, and a track like Rosetta. So I guess it kind of like flipped on its head there. I expected that to play out a little bit differently. Mostly because like Dillion, I didn't really practice too much. Well, I literally didn't practice at all for Dillion, and then Holy I did not practice too much for, and I just like Dillion, everybody else or a lot of the other top drivers had more experience on that track, so I just felt like they were probably gonna know more about it going into it and be a little bit quicker. And then Holy Gardens, I just did not know what to expect, but what I absolutely did not expect was to have like such a good race like I did at Holy Gardens, like a really clean, just like a really cleanly executed race. I did not expect that at all. I thought it would have been like really chaotic, but for me it just ended up working out really well. And then like I said, just kind of flipped on its head. Like Barvo ended up being that chaotic race where I had to kind of like come back from putting myself in some rough positions, and then Azeta was kind of like, I don't know. Azeta was kind of like in the middle. There wasn't too much action at Azeta. It got a little exciting at the end. I saw a little bit of a opportunity open on the last lap with detail crashing, but like unfortunately for me, he crashed. Like if you watch it, he literally crashed in like the exact perfect spot to where the only way I could have got around him cleanly was to either like slow down so hard to the point where he would have just stayed ahead of me, or to go off track, and I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to go off track to do that. So unfortunately, I just like had nowhere to go, made contact with him, and then after that, I might have had a slight opportunity, but as we saw earlier in the race, like where I was trying to make a move wasn't the best place to make a move. Usually, the person on the left eventually got it out, and he did eventually get it out. So that was unfortunate. But I mean, I'm still happy with it overall. I did not expect the wins to come those first 2 weeks and then the seconds to come these weeks. I thought it'd be flipped, but I'm still happy with it so far. Okay, so for the third question, let's see here. So for Roman, I asked like about his points position going in the top 5 or whatever. For me, I guess I'm not like competing, so it doesn't really matter too much for me for points. So I should talk about the team championship then. So like in terms of the team championship, I'd have to see where we're at exactly. I think that my team would still be in the lead here. I don't think the team points are updated quite yet. So let's just double check it here. This will be quick. So we're gonna be at 17, 24, and 34 points. So nice, yes. We're sitting at 34 points. The neighbor is 15, 27, and the 5, 7 is 12, 22, and 27 as well. Okay, so nice. So the other two teams are tied, actually. That's cool. And then our team has a bit of an advantage, a 7-point advantage. That's pretty good. This early on, yeah, that's pretty good. So for, like the main thing for me until grand finals, because I do think I'm going to try to compete for grand finals, is the team championship. I'm really trying to hoop for the team, and I took a big gamble on my team this season. Like, yeah, my team this season is a really weird team setup, but it kind of makes sense. And unfortunately, with some cheese with Fireball, I hope he decides against it. But if he does end up not racing the rest of the season, which would just be dumb and would like really ruin how competitive a season this could possibly be. So yeah, Fireball, you got to think about the people. All right, that would be dumb. Even despite that, I still think that as long as Vulcan and Ump keep showing up like they have been, I still think that we can be a very competitive team. Of course, like our team win, we did kind of need Fireball here this week. Even though Ump and I had a pretty strong performance, Vulcan was a little bit weaker this week, and I think that off the top of my head, I'd have to double check it. I'm not sure what the averages, how they would have worked out if we had Vulcan's finish instead of Fireballs. Let me see. It looks like off the top of my head, well, it would have gave other drivers. It's close. It might have been like a tie, and maybe we would have got the tiebreaker. I don't know. It would have been close if we didn't have Fireball this week, but we still would have performed well. And even if he does end up doing that, I still feel very confident in our team. We have a good, strong early lead, and I just think that we have like a really solid group of drivers that could honestly, like the only track type that I'm not feeling confident that we could steal a team win at is honestly GP. That's the only one that's the only track type I feel like our team won't get a team win at, which kind of sucks because GP's the most races out of the 4 categories, but I feel pretty confident on the other 3 categories, and there's way more of those in total than the GP races alone, if you want to like put it that way. So I'm still feeling pretty confident, and if Fireball decides against being dumb, then I'm feeling super confident. So yeah, I'm feeling really good about the team standings, and even though I do think it'll be an exciting team championship, I think we'll be able to pull it out in the end. And I think I'll play a pretty big role in that. Okay, so for question 4. Oh my god. Alright, so I'm just going to talk about Roman's performance then. So Roman's performance was pretty surprising at Ozetta. I wasn't really... I really wasn't expecting him to be that third place driver, even though he did have a pretty good elim tourney performance. Like nobody was really familiar with the track besides him, so that was kind of expected. So to see him still perform well and back that up here was good and promising. Because of course he's had some bad luck, some bad lag cheese. He even had lag cheese here. He was just fortunate enough to where it didn't end up screwing him over here. Whereas of course at Barvo he kind of like once the lag cheese hit, it was just kind of over for him, which is unfortunate because he could have had a decent finish there. And then once that happened, it was kind of like whatever. He didn't really have another shot. So yeah, that's definitely promising, and I would like to see a bit of a return to form for Roman to keep performing. And I mean, if I'd have to pull up the schedule here, but well, I guess I do have the results up. I mean, if we look at this, Luke, Real Deal Detail, Slaunch and Ump here at the Holy Gardens, Opix here at Barvo, and then Roman at Ozetta. So Detail and I have been pretty consistent so far in the podium spots, the most consistent. But the rest of the spots, we've seen some different drivers. We have Real Deal, like I said, Slaunch and Ump, Opix, and then Roman. So yeah, like Detail and I are the only repeat podium drivers so far. For the rest of it's been very competitive. So I really do hope that continues, and I think that a big part of that continuing would be for Roman to keep up like that good performance, to keep doing well. And I think this is a big race for him to get that third, to get that podium, get that monkey off his back, and just sort of like prove that he can still compete with that. And he was very close early on. Like if Detail and I got a worse start, you know, it could have been very interesting. So I definitely did like to see that good performance out of him. For the fifth question, my favorite race of the season from a spectator standpoint. Oh man, so like if I go through the races, personally, I think that it's definitely between Dillian and Barvo for me. For the most interesting race to watch from a spectator standpoint. I liked Ozetta, and Ozetta did get pretty interesting for the lead at the end. I do think it was funny how Ozetta, like, aside from that Vulcan Hunter battle, which looked kind of cheesy, I'm not really sure how that one ended up. If you know, I feel like Hunter was almost kind of like just cheesing with Vulcan there, but I didn't see the whole thing. That's just how it looked at the end, I guess. But it was funny for Ozetta where we saw like we saw a good three-way pack between Real Deal, Slaunch, and Ump. That was pretty good. But for the most part, other than that, there wasn't as much battling. There were some cheesy crashes, though, some really good crashes. And the lead battle on the very last lap did get interesting. Like, there was a little bit of a glimmer of hope for me, and that I'm glad that happened because it just you know, made that a little more exciting at the end when it looked like it was just going to be all but over. It was like, oh, now we maybe have a chance to see something else go down here, even though, of course, Detail ended up holding onto it. Just crashed it like the perfect way. It still added to the excitement a little bit. Even with all that I just said, I would probably put Ozetta at like the third most exciting. I think Holy Gardens was probably like the least exciting, and I'm definitely looking forward to Frontier though. I think Frontier will be a good race. It could potentially be a competitor for best race. We'll see how it goes. So yeah, going back to it, it's between Dillian and Barvo for me. And Dillian and Barvo, I don't know, man. I would probably give it to Dillian because Dillian just kind of had everything that you could ask for from a GP race. I mean, we kind of talked about this in Detail's interview. Yeah, Dillian just had it all. It had a really solid top 5 battle for pretty much like the entire race. Like a lot of swap positions throughout that top 5 all the way to the end. Little bit outside of the top 5 was exciting as well. There was some really good crashes. The trees, people kept crashing in the trees, which was unexpected. So you had the good crashes too. Pit strats, pits were huge. There's several instances of really clutch and really close pit exits that I'm surprised at how well the pit worked in Dillian. It's in a really good spot. But yeah, Detail had some close call with Real Deal. I remember Vulcan had a really nice double pass in the pits. I think I had one towards the end getting by Detail that was big. So yeah, like when I look back at it, Dillian overall like had everything that you could want out of a good GP race, and it was exciting to the end. So I would have to give it to Dillian there. Barvo, though, like, ovals are always fun to watch, and Barvo was a really good race. I think the one thing that it needed is if it was like a close win battle, not just like all those other spots with the photo finish. If Barvo was like a close win battle at the end, that probably would have sent me over the fence to Barvo a little bit. I might have given it to that if it was a close win battle. Okay, so next question. Any predictions going into next week for the first doubleheader? Okay, so, man, that's kind of an interesting one. Yeah, that's tough. So we've got Goaty and we've got Frontier. So Goaty predictions, I think that Goaty will be a good race, but I also think that it'll play out similar to Ozetta. I think that, you know, like 4th through 10th or so is going to be very separated. I think that there's going to be a pretty big gap. Like I said, similar to Ozetta on this track, that like 4th through 8th, 4th through 10th or so, going to be pretty separated. I think that pits are actually going to be very big and very interesting on Goaty because it's a short race lap wise, big track, definitely long race, at 11 laps. And because you can't pit on the first or the last lap, like that narrows things down. You have a 9-lap pit window. We're probably going to see a lot of instances of 2 drivers pitting on the same lap. We're probably going to see some 3 drivers, maybe 4 drivers pit on the same lap at one point. So I think that the pits are going to be a big factor. I think they're going to be pretty fun to watch here at Goaty, actually. I think the pits will, similar to Dillian, actually like add to the excitement of the race. Sometimes they detract from it. I think it'll add to it here. And going back to my point before, where I think the 4th through 10th will be kind of separated, I think that the top 3, however, whoever it ends up being, I think that the top 3 will be a close battle that'll probably go to the end. And I think we're going to see some great crashes too. You know, like the second half of the track with all the skill sections, we're going to see some insane crashes there. I can guarantee that. Some really cool, like, best wreck contenders, I hope. But yeah, Goaty's like the first track of its kind, really, like a freaking... I actually really like what Ump said, where he's like, it kind of feels like a motocross track. That's kind of what I was going for, like a motocross feeling GP. And yeah, it's got like that national feeling almost of just like of like just a super track, and I'm really excited to see how it races. A track like this with just super long lap times. So not many laps ran, but still being a long race. Like, that's a little bit different. We've had some longer tracks, but none this long, so I'm really excited to see how it plays out. I kind of skirted the question there. I was talking about like how the race would go. I didn't really predict too. I think for the win, it'll be between. I think it'll be the normal GP, the same as Dillian. I think it'll probably be between, especially if Fireball doesn't race. I would actually like to throw Fireball into this conversation if he raced, but because he probably won't, unfortunately, I'm just gonna not throw him in there, which is gonna piss me off if he does end up racing. But yeah, anyways. I think it's probably going to be between me, Detail, and Real Dill for that win, and I think we'll have a good battle there. I would love to see Real Dill bring it back and have a good performance here, because he's been having a rough season for one of the three team captains. He really needs to bring it back. GP is a good opportunity for him to do it. He got second at Dillian, so I think he needs a third place minimum. I'm sure he definitely wants a second or a first. He absolutely wants a win, especially at a track like this. But he absolutely needs a third place minimum. He cannot afford to lose a podium here. But yeah, I would say it would be between those three drivers. For Frontier is tough. I think that Frontier will be competitive. I really do. I genuinely think there's like 7, with the type of track, the type of supercross that Frontier is, I genuinely think that there's like 6 or 7 drivers that could possibly take Frontier. Just listing people off the top of my head, like honestly the same top 3 from the GP, me, Detail, and Real Dill. Real Dill usually like a top 5 guy in Supercross, but we've seen him have some decent Supercross races. I genuinely think that Frontier is a Supercross track that he might actually be pretty decent at. So I think he could be in that conversation. I think that Slaunch and Ump, the 2 podium finishers from Holy Gardens, I think they'll be in the picture again here at Frontier. And then outside the top 5, I think that Roman and Vulcan. I think that Roman and Vulcan, who are usually like potentially good at some Supercrosses, like kind of inconsistent, but they can be towards the top. I think they can be towards the top here at Frontier. We'll have to see how they do, but I think this is a track where they could really perform on. I think that Vulcan, it's been a while since we've seen him have a pretty solid Supercross, even though we know he can do it. So I'd love to see that here. And then Roman, kind of like the same thing. It's been a while since we've seen him have a really solid Supercross race, and Frontier's his own track, and it's a style of track that I feel like he would do good at for Supercross. So yeah, that's tough, man. I just listed 7 drivers, but genuinely, I think that any of those 7 drivers could take Frontier. I think that the heats are going to be super important for gate pick. I think that the start is going to be very important. I think that like one of the top 3, this is kind of like very specific while also being a general prediction. I think that one of the top 3 after the first lap will be the winner of the race. It's going to be a hard track to make up time from like way in the back, and then compete for the win. Maybe compete for like a top 5, but competing for a win from that point on would be tough. So I don't know, man. I really don't know who's going to win Frontier. I kind of agree with Roman's answer, how it's either going to be like the same winners or it's going to be 2 new winners. So, I don't know, man. If Detail wins Goaty, if Detail or I win Goaty, then I think that either Detail or I will win Frontier. But if Real Dill wins Goaty, I'm just agreeing with Roman here, then I think that either Slaunch or Ump, actually. I low-key think that Ump will be pretty strong at Frontier. Will win this race, so hot take there. Wow. That was a good prediction. I got in-depth there. Okay, so question 7. Let me take a drink first, all right? This is just too cocky. All right, so question 7. What are your overall thoughts on the schedule for this season? Is it properly balanced? And are there any types of tracks that you'd like to see more of in the future? Let me see if I can pull up the schedule here, actually. I should have done that for Roman's interview, my bad. There we go. Okay. And, yep, should be good. There we go. So going through the schedule here, I quite like the schedule. Like, if we just want to break it down in terms of track categories, I like the GP variety because we have the super track with Goaty. We have like the intermediate track with Dillian. We have the go-kart with Kings Canyon. We have the shorter GP, more fun GP with Arcadia. And then we have the 2 that are like like intermediate long tracks. These are the two most similar, I would say. But because of the way they race, though, I think they're different enough to where even though like they're the same similar lengths, they still feel unique, and that's Darude and Sherman. Because like how I just explained, similar lengths, but the way that these tracks, like the sections on them, the way they're designed, they race quite a bit differently. So I think we have a really good variety actually for the GP category. I love that we have that go-kart in there. I love that we have the short GP, the super track, and then like the intermediates. Solid GP schedule, I would say. Then we go through the Supercross. I would tend to agree, if you already watched Detail's interview, I would tend to agree with him. I think that the Supercross is the weakest part of the schedule, mostly because of the technicality. I don't think there's a bad track per se here in the Supercross schedule. I just think that it's like, Holy Cardinals is pretty simple. I do give credit to Roman, though. I think the changes he made going into it were good, and I ended up liking it in the end because of those changes, mostly. But with Gridiron, we'll have to see what happens with Gridiron, if we actually end up sticking with it or if it gets switched out. Because I know that like Roman said that he doesn't really want to change it, like that he would rather just see. I think Roman even said that he would rather just see one of the other motocrosses, just like throw one of those in instead of Gridiron. And it's interesting that Gridiron just keeps getting voted over and over again because like it's a fun track to race laps on, but it's just, I don't know, it's very like the last few Gridiron races that we've seen have been very like start determined, like the start is way too important. So we'll have to see how that goes. I think that's definitely the weak part of the SX schedule. But the rest of the tracks, like I said, Holy, after the changes, I ended up liking Frontier. I think is a really good intermediate Supercross. I actually love Frontier. I think that Penitentiary is like the long Supercross, I guess. Good variety in the Supercrosses too. Like they're all unique. That is one thing I'll give it. Like even though the technicality's not quite there, all these Supercrosses are very unique, and none of them feel like too similar to one another. So we have Penitentiary there, which has its own like unique layout where it's kind of like back and forth, and then it goes out of the track, then it goes back into the track, and a bunch of different types of sections. So it being like the long track in the schedule, and then we eventually get down to Salt Lake, which is like the most, not the most technical track ever, but the most technical track on this season, with some good like split lines, fun split lines to take, stuff like that. We've seen Salt Lake race plenty of times. So technicality-wise, I wish it would have got raised a little bit with the SX schedule, but on the bright side, I do like the track variety, and I do like, I really like Frontier, Penitentiary, Salt Lake, and I ended up liking Holy Gardens in the end. It's just, we'll have to see what happens with Gridiron. Go through the ovals. I remember Roman said that they have like similar racing styles. So we got Barvo, Chile, Portland, Clarion, Angel Park. Well, I don't know. I think that we don't really know about Clarion. We kind of have to see how that races. That's kind of a question mark. It's never been raced before. Angel Park is interesting. Like I think that Angel Park's probably the most unique potentially of all these. It's that or Portland, but you could argue that Portland's not unique because it's it's like the Barvo turn and the HRL Super Speedway turn, so you could argue it that way. So I don't know. I personally really like the ovals, honestly. I like all of these ovals. They're all different. Like Barvo is very cushion focused. Chile, the cushion's fastest, but a lot of what determines that race is your inside runs. It's not as cushion dominant as Barvo, even though the cushion's good. And it's like that short track, tight action. Clarion is kind of a question mark, just don't really know yet. Portland, even to an extent, is a question mark, but we know that it's got the two corners from HRL and Barvo, so you'd expect to see the people that are good at HRL and Barvo be good there, and expect it to race kind of similar to those two tracks. So I think Portland's the one that I'm probably, I'm looking forward to the two new ones, honestly. I'm looking forward to those the most. I mean, if I'm being honest, I'm looking forward to all the ovals. And then like going back down to Angel Park. Angel Park's like the battle track, I guess, where it's all about that pack racing and how you get through that. The only complaint I would have here for the oval portion of the schedule is that I think that a different oval should be the Grand Finals oval. I think that Angel Park is like Grand Finals. You should have harder tracks. And right now you have Sherman and Salt Lake, which aren't necessarily, like the Salt Lake's probably the hardest Supercross. Sherman may not be the hardest GP, but it's in competition. Like it's pretty competitive with Goaty and Darude probably for like hardest. So I think that's fine. Portugal, like same thing. You could argue it with hardest Rallycross. Like all the Rallycross have hard elements to them, and honestly they're all kind of similar skill gap wise, I would say. So I don't really have an issue with that. Angel Park's the only one where it's like I think it's definitively 100% the easiest oval out of all these, so I would kind of like to see that switched for a different oval in grand finals. That's my only complaint there. Could you imagine a Chilean grand finals? Oh my god. That's all my only really complaint there, I guess. So then we go to finally the rallycross, and it's unfortunate we just don't have too much rallycross this season, but I have to say again, like the track variety, love the track variety here. All different types of rallycrosses, race differently, bunch of different types of sections, different jokers, and they're all fun. So I'll save you guys some time on, like, we can go in depth on the other ones. The rallycrosses I think are fun, good selections. I love that there's like enough variety again to keep it interesting so they don't feel the same. And I'm looking forward to all of them, really. Like the rallycrosses are some of my most anticipated just because there's so few of them. And Ozetta definitely lived up to the hype. So getting back to it, so that was like the little analysis there of the schedule. I've just been doing that all these questions. But yeah, I think that it's a pretty good schedule. I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. It's pretty good. With some slight improvements can easily make it a 9. And any tracks I'd like to see more of in the future, the rallycross. You know, it's unfortunate right now that we don't have as many rallycrosses, but I would love to see some more, like at least one more rallycross worked into the schedule because they're always a ton of fun. All right, final question. Don't worry, guys. I won't make this one too long. Okay, so yeah, final question. Continuing the idea from the last one, any future season ideas that you'd be interested in? SX, GK, AX, or rallycross season? God, that's a tough one. I'm most interested in the Supercross season as well, just because, like with Roman said, we've been remaking the 2019 tracks, and I just think that if we did that and did it like in the Supercross style of formatting and stuff like that, I think that'd be a really cool, unique season that a lot of people would have fun with. So yeah, I'm probably looking forward to that one the most right now. That one's the most interested in. Although, again, like agreeing with Roman, I think that they would all be fun, honestly. I think that I would love to see all these seasons play out at some point. If I were to do it in like an order, I would like to see the Supercross season. Then I would probably like to see the GK season because we've been kind of low-key like working up towards that. We have enough tracks now. I think a go-kart season would be pretty fun and unique enough from like a GP season to where it wouldn't feel too much like that. But because we just had the GP season, I think it makes more sense to do a Supercross season, you know, give it some time and then get into a go-kart. And then after that, I would probably do Rallycross again to like sort of just separate with the Supercross season again, and then like end it off. The last one I'd probably want to see is the Arena Cross season. But it's not like I don't want to see any of these. I'd love to see all of them play out eventually. It's just like that's the order in which I'm interested in seeing them. And the main reason Rallycross isn't, I actually really like Rallycross. It would probably be towards the front of my list. But we just need more tracks. Like we've been making tracks happen for Supercross and go-kart. We have a decent starting ground for Arena Cross. Rallycross, there just needs to be more tracks there. We need some more forging. We need some more variety. It's literally just Roman and I now with Rallycrosses. We need some other people getting Rallycrosses into the flow. So that's why I put it towards the end, even though that's low-key the one that I might be the most interested in. It's just logistically speaking, I don't think that it's feasible right now. So yeah, I mean, that pretty much ends it off. Final thoughts? Roman's bye.